go, because we know you also are into wearables. So what do you see the next biggest trend in consumer wearables?
Yeah, so I mean, wearables thus far have mostly focused on, at least in the consumer space, they've focused on, something that sits on your wrist, like a watch or a bracelet and so on.
Right.
But we're actually seeing more movement toward incorporating wearable technologies and things like shirts and jackets and pendants, even shoes. So, the technologies again come of age to where we can, get lower power, we get better battery time on these devices. So
Right, right.
we're really seeing interesting use cases, but in the consumer space, it's mostly centered around health and wellness. On the higher end, we're seeing more like a sports and athlete type focus.
Right, right. And do you think, it's kind of interesting. Do you see a demo particularly using these wearables more often than not? Are the baby boomers, using these devices more than millennials? Because millennials were ones who never wanted to wear a watch. Now all of a sudden, the coolest thing is a smartwatch or some sort of wearable. I'd be curious to see if you guys see the clients coming and saying, "We're looking for a particular demo," or is it more just health across all demographics?
It tended to focus more on the younger demographic, but these new use cases are more cross-cutting across all demographics. And we've definitely seen more interest in, especially things like, wearables around detecting falls, just for more elderly care or some of the hospice areas. So
Yeah.
those have definitely become more of interest lately. I've noticed that.
Yeah, yeah, because I know it's, we ran into a problem with my sister-in-law where she's 70 years old, looking for a health wearable, but she's got an iPad 2 and a flip phone, and she couldn't find a wearable that worked on her iOS platform because they're all on 10. She's still on 6 or 8, you know? So it's an interesting challenge that they have. But I guess from a wearables perspective, what kind, you know, detecting falls and everything, you think, when you think of a wearable, what is especially in the senior market, and one of the reasons we're also looking for her to have one and everybody is like, okay, it used to be when a senior falls, you push a button, you get one of those services. But now wearables can provide that, right? But do you think it's going to be a watch? Is it going to be a shirt? This sensor that will help. I know there's companies that are putting sensors into the floors, but those are more in assisted living. What can people do at home? I'd be curious to get your take. Do you see, okay, when the elderly fall and they live at home, what's the solution you think that these consumers will be able to purchase or to be able to use to help prevent someone from lying on the floor for days or whatever before the help comes?
Yeah, so in terms of technologies that underlie that, it's more than just Wi-Fi and Bluetooth because you can't rely on the home Wi-Fi. You can't rely just purely on your Bluetooth connection to your phone to get you to the web. So it's incorporating newer cellular technologies like LTE, CAT-M, NB-IoT. In a few years, 5G will have these technologies as well and allow lower battery or better battery life. So those are some of the underlying technologies. In terms of form factors, I've seen everything from necklaces to watches to just something you stick inside your shirt like a pin. So there's a number of different permutations for solving this problem. I think ultimately it's about creating that core technology that can move across form factors.
Right, right, wherever they go and stuff. Um, so you think from a wearables, I'm curious to see, okay, yeah, it's health now. Are we going to start controlling other devices with our wearables, right? You see smartwatch and some of the new smart home devices are now you can control with an Apple Watch or a Gear smartwatch. Or I'd be curious to see if you're seeing smart home controls, being baked into new wearables or clients looking for consumers besides voice and your phone, other devices that they could use, other wearable devices they could use to control and access their home, whether it be the home security system, their lights, the garage, what have you.
Yeah, so for the watches, I think that's primarily the control method for wearables in terms of interacting with the smart home. Now you have these sensors on your body that can interact, but it's more of almost a passive or a proximity type interaction. It's not so much an active interaction with the user. I think the active interaction is mostly going to happen with what you see on the watch side.
Right, right. Yeah, it's interesting because it reminds me of, I've always said that like voice, like we're moving to a world where we're all going to have our own Jarvis, like from
Yep.
Iron. So you think about it, you have it, in the home, running your house now, and then you have things like, um, then you have it in the car now. They're baking into the car and appliances, and now and now it's in wearables. Who knows what's going to be next? In terms of, I really believe it's all going to be one, but that's a whole nother world, a whole nother discussion. So moving on to the next topic, we have a topic: augmented reality. You guys get involved with this. Do you
Yep.
believe augmented reality devices will become fairly common in the consumer space, or do you think it's going to be more of an enterprise type of play and being very vertical, which is where I think a lot of the virtual reality is kind of headed, with how they're baking that technology into areas like whether it be travel or constructions and what have you. But your take and what you guys are seeing in augmented reality, do you think it's going to be, a fairly common thing in the consumer space?
In the consumer space, I still see augmented reality a ways off in terms of head-mounted devices, and more so mixed reality. I think that's really the ultimate goal. But as far as a near-term use case for augmented reality, I think it's mostly going to reside on the phone or your tablet or your laptop as it does today. I think the price point is just too much for anyone but the prosumer to really bear. But in terms of the mathematics on the enterprise and business side, absolutely, we're deploying it ourselves actually in our own factories, and there's real benefit to it. But as we get those price points, as we get volumes driven up on the business side, it'll drive price points down on the consumer side. Maybe someone creates that killer app to make the mathematics work for a consumer to buy something that expensive. But I still think we have a lot of work to go on the technology as well as the supply chain on it.
Yeah. So what about mixed reality, right? Will we see most cases or things, or where will we see the use of mixed reality, which combines both augmented and kind of virtual reality?
Well, the hope for mixed reality is it'll become kind of that next cell phone where you do away with this over screen that you're carrying around all day and you just wear your glasses, and now you have your entire life and your network of friends and everything else you do in your life kind of at you're right at eye level, and you can interact with the voice. You can maybe have some sort of touch device that like a totem or you're touching the glass itself. But that's really kind of the dream that everyone has with mixed reality, is making it kind of ubiquitous and adder to, your day-to-day life. And
Yeah.
there's a lot of cool use cases that we've been looking at for mixed reality if we can get there.